apprentice jockey Fred Daly. He's brought his mum, Sharon Hamilton, but that's not how it sounds, because Sharon is, of course, the Tipstar winner who'll be making her debut as a pundit next week on Tuesday. Don't think Fred's going to be riding, so there'll be no conflict of interest there. But you're here live. You see the pastries are real. How's life?
Yeah, very good, very good. I've been waiting a long time to see these pastries.
You will be allowed to take one. You will be allowed to take one away. Sharon, this has probably seemed like a long time in the coming for you. I mean, Tipstar was back in November, December, was it?
It was December. It was the Cheltenham meeting in December. So, yeah, we were given the option, myself and my co-winner, who I have to give a shout out to, Liam Firkin, to do some punditry on the summer jumping, but we both wanted to wait for the mud and the rain to start flying, which we haven't got yet, but the jump season is bubbling away and we're just starting to see a few of them come out. So
your heart's with the jumps?
Absolutely, yeah.
And yours is with the flat?
Yeah.
I've begged him to be a jump jockey, but
I get begged every day. I get begged every day.
How was sort of life growing up for you? Was there an inevitability that you were always going to be surrounded by racing?
Yeah, I suppose so. Mum rode out when I was younger. Dad's been in racing all his life. He trained when I was very, very young, and then he was lucky enough to be given the opportunity to pre-train for Godolphin. He was very successful there and had some good horses. So, no, I suppose it was inevitable that I was going to be involved in racing in some way, shape, or form. So, so now enjoying it. What
was the path? Did it look like? Was it pony club, riding out? How did it look?
I rode a lot when I was younger, and I took a big interest in the racing side of things. And I sort of came home from school one day and said, "Mum, I want to be a jockey." And from then, you know, because of COVID, pony racing couldn't really happen. So Mum and Dad shipped me off to Sir Mark's when I was 14, and I had the best 3 years there. I learned
straight to near the top.
Straight to near the top, and no, honestly, I owe Sir Mark and his assistant William everything. They taught me. I walked in there as a little 14-year-old boy who knew nothing. And, you know, it was hard to leave. I got offered a very good job. It was very hard to leave because, you know, like William took me on like his son. He didn't have, and Sir Mark, as everyone knows, is who he is. And no, it was amazing.
You rode your first winner for Sir Mark, Golden Shot. Now, you didn't just win. You won by nearly 30 lengths down at Fossils. Yeah. What was that whole experience like?
Yeah, no, I think walking into school the next day, I thought I was God. But no, the horse he had won that season, and actually on paper it was a poor enough race, but on paper he actually wasn't that well in. And Sir Mark brought me into the office in the morning, and he said, "Fred, nothing makes an inexperienced jockey look worse than looking around on their first ride." So he said, "When you get to the 3 furlong marker, put your head down and drive it to the line, and do not lift your head until you cross the line." And I remember coming across the line, turning around, pulling up, and I went, "Oh no, I'm going to get in trouble here."
Yeah. What was the reaction?
No, I remember William saying to Sir Mark in the office that I wish you'd have told him to have a look now.
And what about those early experiences for Mum then, to see your boy, your pride and joy out on a racetrack riding winners?
It was incredible. And then that was as an amateur rider, and then his first professional winner was Orbital, who was Pivotal's last foal for Sir Mark, and that was at Chelmsford, where he's always been really lucky. So he thought this was an easy gig, you know, first win as an amateur, first win as a professional, but having been in the game for a long time myself and his dad training, you know, it's only going to get tougher. So, yeah, but I love watching him. You know, you ride the highs and the lows, and the highs are amazing. The lows can be, you know, really pretty miserable sometimes. And you've got to be able to shut it off. And his mentality is incredible.
Maybe aided and abetted by the fact that you've got a plan. I mean, yeah, speaking to you is very unusual for an 18-year-old to have his feet on the ground and to have a plan. But give our viewers a sense of how that looks for you, because a jockey isn't necessarily the be-all and end-all for you.
No, look, I've had a very, very good season. I suppose as a competitor, you'll never be quite satisfied with how the season's gone. Plenty of people have been supporting me. but I'm a tall lad, and I know that probably time is limited. So I think you have to look forward to the future and what you're going to do, because I think, you know, as unfortunately we're getting taller, many of us now, I think we'd all be stupid to say we're going to be jockeys for the rest of our lives. I'm obsessed with the bloodstock side of things. As soon as this is finished, I'm straight off to Tattersalls to go around with Catty Grassic. So yeah, I'm off to Australia on Friday for the winter, which should be an amazing experience. I'm off to Annabelle and Rob Archibald's, so go over there and be a sponge and try and enjoy the experience and take back as much as I can from it.
So how much of that Australian experience, that's to ride out, ride work, barrier trials, how much of that is going to be just jockeyship? How much of that is maybe looking at other sides of the business while you're there? Yeah,
definitely. I'll try, and I've spoke to Annabelle. She's been fantastic over the phone, and they're interested to get me involved in everything possible, whether that be the riding side of things, which obviously I can do, but delving into, you know, foreman side of things and bloodstock, and even the training side of things, if the opportunity arises. I'd hopefully like to go off to the Gold Coast in January for their big yearling sales at Magic Millions. So, you know, their type of horse is very different to our type of horse. So if I can just gather some information on what they look for, it'd be fantastic.
Direct question. If you weren't sort of 5, 10, 8, 12 as an 18-year-old, and you could have been guaranteed, say, a fairly steady weight for the next 5, 6 years, would you be all in as a jockey?
Yeah, definitely. And I'd still bit Smarks.
Yeah.
I'd still bit Smarks.
So there's an element of realism and practicality.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I always said if I was a stone lighter, I'd still bit Smarks. Like, I can't emphasise enough how good that was. And I'm now at George Bowie's, and he's been fantastic in letting me go ride out for other people. But at the time, you know, Sir Mark, as we all know, handicaps, and at the time I got offered the job from George, and it was 200 horses, running them 3-4 times every day. You know, it's something I couldn't turn down, and I'm glad I didn't turn it down. It's a fantastic job, and you know, I have done well from it. But you know, Sir Mark's was, you know, that was home for a long time.
Tell you what, Cornelius, bottle a little bit of what this young man's got and dish it out at school to the next generation.
And there wouldn't be too many problems in the world, would there? No, absolutely. No, it's great story to hear, and the just being, you know, clearly the teams being, the two of you being very practical about where the future could go, and you could bury your head in the sand, and lots of people obviously do bury their head in the sand and say, I'm going to keep going. Yeah, I might get a break. This might happen. That might happen. But it's interesting and reassuring to hear somebody take a more practical view.
It's quite hard as a parent to watch him trying to take weight off. You know, it is pretty brutal. Because
no saunas anymore.
No saunas anymore. Look, in this day and age...
No racecourse saunas.
No racecourse saunas, obviously. But, you know, I'm riding out every day, trying to get as many rides as I can, because I want to be racing every day. And if that means that I'm going to be riding out until 10 minutes before I leave for the racecourse, I have to do that. So if I'm riding light that day, I'm in the bath at 6 o'clock the night before, and I might not be riding until 6 o'clock that day. So it's a day without water, you know. And, you know, we pay for a driver, but if I've got the one ride, I'm not making any money. So, you know, if I have to drive myself, you know, it is dangerous. And I suppose Mum gets the worst of it, because she's always driving me up and down the country, which I'm very grateful for. But no, it is hard, and I suppose as a parent, it's probably quite hard to see.
It's a big discussion. We had a little bit of it, but kind of behind the scenes. But that kind of element of your story, how much of that have you shared with, say, other apprentices, other young jockeys who are in the same position? Because essentially we are a growing species, and the truth is, you know, Adam Kirby, who I've got so much time for, so much respect for, so much empathy for, because essentially he will feel he's been hounded out of the sport by the lack of saunas in weighing rooms. I think the bigger picture, and I work in boxing as well, you know, brain trauma, concussion, they're very closely linked to dehydration. So it's a very serious story in a big part of the sport, but it's too big to really discuss here. Essentially, theoretically, there's loads of guys like Adam Kirby who are just not meant to be jockeys, really.
Yeah.
But your story, sort of anecdotally, how many of your colleagues, people in the same kind of position, are struggling?
I'd be on the higher end.
Yeah.
Like, I really struggle. I'm happy to admit that. But you know, some of my best friends jockeys, and I'm not going to name them, but it's really tough, and they really struggle. And for 18, 19-year-olds, it's not normal. And I know, we chose the job. We know exactly how tall we are, and we know what weight we are. But it's hard to see, I suppose. And I might go up. We might go out for dinner, and then two of us aren't eating, or I know that's how it is, but it's very hard.
So what does your timeline look like? Have you kind of given yourself a cut-off? Do you need to ad-lib and just see how your body reacts? What is it? And with your ambitions in the bloodstock world as well.
No, I go to Australia on Friday, and look, I'm going out there with a very open mind. It's very hot over there, so it'd be quite easy to sweat. Yeah. But no, if the weight's okay, I like to ride. I like to have a few rides out there, and sure, if I come back and the weight has stabilised and I'm into a good routine, then I will carry on. If I go out there and I keep growing and it gets too much, then I won't. As simple as that. I'm a bit of a geek in the horse racing world. I love every aspect of it, and I wouldn't be afraid to go somewhere else.
Excellent.
Did you shoot up? Were you when you were 6? Did you suddenly sort of?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose at school I was always quite small.
Right.
But I've never been like a small lad in terms of build. But when I was at Sir Mark's, I just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And when you were a kid, you had your fridge and you'd mark your height off. It just kept going up and up and up and up. And I have a little cry every time the mark goes up.
So did you have to one day sit down together and say, God, look at the way I'm going up. I'm going to have to...
Yeah, I think a big moment for me was I broke my back when I was at Sir Mark's, and about halfway during my rehab there, I got pulled into an office in the Jockey's Fund, and the nutritionist, the physio, and the gym member actually sat me down and said, like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Because obviously they were marking my weight as I was going through my rehab just for health purposes, and they actually pulled me in and said, "Are you sure you want to do this? It's going to be hard."
They could see the markers.
And I wouldn't listen to them.
You didn't listen.
I wouldn't listen to them. Yeah, I walked out of the room. Yeah.
So did you end up listening to Mum later on, or how did?
No, it's not that I'm realising how hard it is. It's like I'm realising it's impossible.
Right.
His view, I think, was always, I am doing this, and the time is limited. I will do as much as I can in the time I'm given, and then I'm going to do this. He's always been very focused about there's a limited time. And actually, what if you had 150 odd rides?
Yeah.
Regardless of whether you've had 10 rides or 15 or 150 or 1,000, no one can take that experience away from you.
Absolutely
It's invaluable, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I think what you've just said, though, the thought of a nutritionist and other people actually pulling people into the room and saying, "Hey, do you think you're doing the right thing?" I think that's a reassuring part.
Yeah, and you heard, Adam, the Adam Kirby interview with Nick Luck earlier, so many lines and strains repeatedly coming through that about hinting at what a struggle it's been to come to terms emotionally, psychologically with not being allowed or able to do what it is that he wants to do. And he views training as replacing in many ways, or repurposing, finding the purpose again. So you're lucky that you've been able to deal with those things that he is kind of still dealing with.
Yeah, I suppose Adam's got his pre-training business that obviously gives him some level of adrenaline that he gets from racing, but I feel like after being a jockey, you're looking for that next buzz, and whether that's training or bloodstock or, it's important you find that, because, it is hard to deal with, something you've wanted to do since you were a baby. For many of us born in racing, it is like when you're a kid, like, I'm going to be a jockey. There's nothing else in the world I want to be, and it's a hard thing to take on.
Fantastic.
And it must be even when you have to give up because of injury. Something's happened. You've got to give up. When it's because of something that's happening naturally, that must make it even harder.
It's very rare in any sport that you get to leave on your own terms. You know, Joe Calzaghe in boxing, one of the few. Ricky Hatton never really quite came to terms with that. Sadly lost him just a few weeks ago as well. So final question, what do you make of Mum as a Tipstar champion?
Find out on
would
Tuesday.
be racing broadcaster pundit?
You find out on Tuesday, I suppose, won't you? No, Mum's very knowledgeable. We have a few arguments in our household over form and what's going to win races. And you know, you drive me to the race, I get back in the car, she goes, "You should have done that in that race." And I'm like, "Oh."
I pick my moments. I wouldn't do it after a photo finish where he's come out the wrong side, but an hour or so into the journey home, I'll be, "Well, what did you think of your ride?"
Headphones straight on.
Well, you'll be her sort of breeding advisor in due course.
Bloodstock advisor, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if I need to know something about bloodstock, he is. During COVID, when they were supposed to be working at home doing GCSEs, I was like, kept sticking my head into his room and thinking, he's doing really well, I'm really impressed. And one day I went in and it was literally all of the Tattersalls catalogues, all the form written out. Oh, okay.
Well, that's going to hold you in good stead. Sharon's going to stick with us. Fred, we're going to say goodbye to. We wish you all the very best.
Thank you very much.
What remains of your jockey's career, but the next leg of the journey over in Australia.
Thank you guys very much.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.